Now, what I'm basically going to teach you here is using Scan Unlimited to identify profitable liquidation pallets that you can buy and resell back on Amazon for a profit, okay? The Scan Unlimited software is going to shoot out all the numbers, and you're going to be able to put the data, into kind of order so you can see if it's a good buy or it's a bad buy, right? Because you don't want to guess on these things when you're spending a couple $100. You want to be sure. Okay? So here we are on Scan Unlimited, and I've identified a decent pallet that looks promising. Obviously, I haven't done any research on this yet, so you're going to sort through it just like I would. I'm going to actually pull up Word here too as well, so we can kind of just start gauging the certain numbers and adding them together. Now, the reason I'm pulling up Word is typically I do this in Excel, but I also have the lot here with the entire manifest that I use to plug into Scan Unlimited in Excel currently. So we'll just use Word and we'll kind of track our profit margins for the pallet there, okay? Now, what I'm going to use is 888 lots. You can use a number of liquidation sites to buy liquidation pallets to resell back on sites like eBay, Poshmark, and Mercari, but to do it with, you can also source liquidation to resell back on Amazon, but to be sure, like I always recommend that you need to do it from a site that's going to give you a lot manifest, product identifiers like ASINs or UPCs or something like that, so that you can do research on those products ahead of time with your software like Scan Unlimited, and then be sure that your pallet is actually profitable before you jump in and actually go ahead and buy it, okay? So that's how this is going to be played out. Now, you can obviously do this with individual items, and I've done an entire tutorial on that in the past, so if you're just interested in sourcing liquidation, you can obviously go down to the bottom of the description, watch that video afterward. It's going to be all the way at the bottom. I'll link that for you in the description, and you can watch that video afterwards if you're interested in learning how to source individual items and you don't actually want to go ahead and spend a couple $100 on a pallet initially, okay? Now, if you do that, though, you need to understand that you still need to hit the $100 threshold with the individual items, because 888 won't ship anything out that's less than $100, because then obviously it's not advantageous for them to actually go ahead and ship it to you, okay? So you can do the individual items. You can also sort through all the different lots or pallets, obviously, and find a good one. So here we are on some of the electronics. Sometimes I'll do clothing and fashion. In fact, I do that quite often, and I'll source shoes from here because I like to resell them on Poshmark, eBay, and Mercari, because you can obviously resell them back on all those sites. And then if there's a good opportunity to resell one of those products on Amazon, I'll do that as well. But you can literally look through any of these categories. There's a number, as you can see, pallets here that you can check out. So what I did is I came to electronics. Now, I'm not going to buy this because, like I already said, I sourced a ridiculous amount of inventory already, and I need to get it listed. So I'm not sourcing anything here. But this, I believe, is the one that I clicked right here. So it's $268 for 89 units, and it's $301 per unit, okay? So it's not the 500 or the 600 ones, and it's not the $1,000 ones. It's the cheapest option here in electronics and appliances, okay? So that's exactly what I'm going to sort through. Now, when I actually open that up, what happens here is you'll see the lot manifest where you can go down. Now, typically what I would recommend in the past is you click the ASIN, you do product research on it, you actually go to the individual homepage, or not homepage, the product catalog page, right? And then do your research on here, right? Can you sell it, etc., etc.? Is it profitable? But you don't need to do that anymore because you can just throw it into a Scan Unlimited software like this, right? Now, one of the benefits of a Scan Unlimited software like this is, like I said, it's going to sort all that data for you, so it's going to save you a ridiculous amount of time. On top of that, you can also combine this. So this sources liquidation sites that have these product identifiers in the manifest as well. And I also use Scan Unlimited to source wholesale as well. So you're knocking two really, really valuable stones out, or birds with one stone, I should say, okay? So if you guys want Scan Unlimited, I actually have an affiliate link for it. I'll drop it in the description below. So assuming you have Scan Unlimited now, I'm gonna show you how to actually utilize it to your advantage to source through these pallets so that you can obviously be sure that you're profitable, right? And there's obviously many pricing plans on Scan Unlimited, but if you have the unlimited plan, like I recommend down in the description to get, and you can get it half off with the promo code GARA for $20 a month, which is a steal, then obviously you can source through and do many different liquidation pallets, many different product catalogs from wholesale suppliers, etc., etc. So an easy way to do this is just hit export to Excel on 888 and then download the Excel document right here, and then boom, it pops up with something like this, where obviously you have it in columns where you got the ASIN, so the product identifier, the actual product, the condition, the quantity that you have those products, obviously, the price, etc., etc. So if you need to know how to set up Scan Unlimited, I've done videos on that in the past. I'll try to link a few of them down in the description below. If you need to understand how to actually set up your product catalog in Scan Unlimited, it's very, very easy to actually do that. Or if you have any questions, just drop them in the comments section below, and I would love to point you in the right direction, okay? So before we actually jump into sourcing through Scan Unlimited on this product catalog, let me show you some of the homepage lots that are good opportunities, or at least they were last night, okay? So right here you have $28, so boys polo shirts, I haven't looked into this, but $28 for 19 units right here, $1.47 per unit. I mean, you can make money on that. You're literally risking $28. Now, keep in mind as well, what I always recommend to my students in my online arbitrage pro course, and this is obviously disabled for this specific one because it's a fixed price lot, but that's not always the case, is make an offer, right? So right here, you'll see price negotiation is disabled. But if I actually went back to that other one, you would see that you can negotiate the price here. So that's what I'd recommend that you do. So if, for example, and I'll pull it right up just to kind of show you. So let's go back to electronics. If I were to go to that specific electronics pallet and I finally identified that this 268.20 pallet was profitable, right? I could make more than this sourcing this and reselling it back on Amazon with maybe a few extra items at least to keep in resale in other places, right? What I would do is I would not hit add to cart. Okay. Instead, I would literally hit negotiate and I might type something in here. Now, I want to recommend that you don't start your relationship off with them badly, right? You're not going to lowball them at like $90 or something ridiculous. But, if you want to go like 150 to like 190 or something like that, it's worth a shot sometimes. And it will tell you, right? So let's put a lowball offer in here right here just to show you, right? And if I put 90 in here, I guarantee you it's going to tell me that that's too low and something that they're not willing to accept, right? Boom, sorry, but your offer is lower than the amount we can possibly consider. Please try again with a higher amount, right? Now, if I were to put like 199 in here, it might say that again, or it might accept the potential offer, okay? So you always make offers on pallets if you're able to. You don't actually have to buy it from the list price. That's a good point to keep in mind and something I always recommend to my students, okay? So I'm going to keep this open just to kind of show you the price of the actual pallet, and then maybe we'll negotiate if we find out that this is a profitable pallet here. But like I said, this pallet right here on the homepage, I mean, $28 for 19 units. How can you not make money on that? Now, a couple, things on that. You wouldn't want to sell this probably back on Amazon. You might be able to. You could do product research just the same. But I'd probably source this because it's clothing to resell back on Poshmark, eBay, and Mercari. Now, you'd spend $28. You might not make that $28 back on the initial, in the first week. But eventually, as you sold one or two of these units, you'd probably be profitable at 20. Maybe you sell 4 of these units. You're profitable over $28, and you still have like 15 units left that is 100% profit margin, right? So that's how you run a liquidation business when you're reselling on Poshmark, eBay, and Mercari. It's about collecting quality inventory, listing it. The more inventory that you list, the more potential sales and the more potential profit, and then being patient, okay? I have an entire video on that as well. If you're interested, you can check it out after this video. It's at the bottom of the description with the other videos that I linked, okay? Now, you can sort through these and see some other great opportunities of pallets right here. So, there was one that was like literally $18, I think, and it was like 20 some units last night, but someone must have scooped it up. But regardless, I mean, you're paying $218 for these units, you're paying $218 for these units, so obviously do your research. You want to open it up and look at them, look at the sizes, make sure that the sizes aren't anything crazy, right? This one's 22 of a quantity of the same one, so if it's a good size, which it looks like a 6X, probably not something I'd go after. That's a bad one, right? So if you find a bunch of variations of that, then it might be something good, right? If we click onto this one, it might be a multiple different, so okay, this 19 of the same one right here, so that might also be a good one or a bad one. I'm not sure, but you'd have to do your research. A couple things on that when you're looking at those homepage fixed price lots to resell on Poshmark, eBay, and Mercari, make sure that if they're shoes or if they're clothing, that the size is something that, generally speaking, there would be more people buying than not. So you're not going after something that's like super plus size, right? Or something that's like super, super small, because there's not going to be a high market for people to actually buy that. So with all that out of the way, let's finally start sourcing through the Scan Unlimited software to see if this is actually a profitable buy. Now, the first thing that you want to do is you want to go over here to the filter. I've already ran this entire spreadsheet through the Scan Unlimited software, so now it's time to filter it so we can get the best data at the top, so we can do our product research on a couple of items and really fast find out if it's profitable, right? You don't want to actually go down and literally click everything, because this might be a profitable item, this might be a profitable item, and this might be a ridiculously profitable item, but maybe you have to sort through all these to find them, and that's going to waste a lot of your time, okay? Now, with Scan Unlimited, you don't actually have to go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to actually do, right, is I'm going to go profit right here. And I'm going to say profit that's, well, let's actually go ROI. We'll go positive ROI. So positive ROI is greater than or equal to, we'll go 20%. And we'll add that, right? And there's many other ways to obviously sort through this. You can do price. Obviously, it's going to depend too on, if you're sourcing wholesale, which obviously you want more sales on a product, right? So it's moving faster and higher sales velocity versus if you're doing something with liquidation and you can afford to wait slightly longer, okay? Now, sales rank will go, because this is in the electronics category, things should be selling fairly quickly. So we'll go under 400,000, although that's obviously a little bit high and not ideal. So sales rank less than 400,000, and then we'll click off of it, okay? Now, what that's going to do is it's going to take everything in this actual lot out of it, right? And anything that's above 400,000 sales rank is going to be, excluded. Anything that's lower than 20% profit margin is going to be excluded, okay? So now we finally have everything sorted, right? And I went 100 per page, which is just a kind of a habit. There actually isn't, I don't think, 100 here on this actual palette, but it's just a habit, okay? Now, one thing I will say about before actually sorting through, typically it's sorted through at sales rank, but I like to go over and look at the ROIs as well. And the profit margin. Now, here is something that's built into the software that I love, okay? Now, when you're reselling on Amazon, this obviously doesn't matter when your intentions are reselling on Poshmark, eBay, or Mercari, but when you're reselling on Amazon and you see this right here on a product, that means that that brand is known for filing IP complaints, okay? So avoid Belkin products, obviously, and reselling them back on Amazon. They're known for IP complaints, okay? Now, anything with this green question mark means that you're good to go, okay? It means that nobody knows if it's, if they've filed IP complaints in the past. So if, for example, and same thing with this one right here, Fund Central, okay? So those are items that you don't want to resell back on Amazon, okay? Now, if, for example, that the majority of this pallet was profitable and, this was a major player in this pallet being profitable on Amazon, well, it's not something I'd like to go after potentially because it is liquidation. Now, this does vary slightly in your approach when you're doing wholesale, but for liquidation pallets, as a rule of thumb, don't go after products that file, or brands, that file IP complaints, okay? So you can sort through sales rank and go through that way. Remember, the only thing that we're doing here, it's not individual items. We're not sorting this through like it's wholesale and we're sorting through, to find a profitable item. We want to know if this entire profit or this entire pallet is profitable. So I have it sorted through ROI right here. You can see that this is a 489% ROI. 769 profit, 1440 profit, and so on and so forth, right, as we scroll down, okay? So that's pretty solid, but what we need to do is we need to check into each one of these products, and what we need to really see is, does it equal more than the price that we can pay to purchase this, okay? So I'm going to assume that I can probably make relatively low of an offer at maybe $199 or maybe $210 or something like that, and save myself $60 or $70 on this pallet. So let's set the price right here at $210, okay? That's what I'm going to assume that we're going to make. Now, I always like to be conservative. I might make a lowball offer once I find out that this is profitable. Let's say I assume that I can make $300 on this. Well, then obviously I can make $90, right? If I'm buying it for $210 and I'm making $300 profit on it, and then maybe there's 10 to 15 other items that aren't profitable on Amazon or don't have good sales ranks that I'm just getting for free that I can resell on other places, okay? That's how I choose to approach this game when I'm reselling liquidation pallets for Amazon. Now, these numbers could be different, right? They might be very, very different. This number might be 600, and then I'm more profitable than that, okay? That's not typically the case with liquidation, but every once in a while you will see a pallet like that. Usually it's more 320, right? And then you're making $100 on this as they sell or something like that, right? Now, if you're spending more typically, right? So if you're spending $560, then maybe it's going to be $1,100 or 800. And then obviously your margins are a little bit higher, so you're making more of a, more money on that, but you're spending more to get into it, okay? So a lot of little caveats in this video right here. I hope I'm not throwing you in too many directions, but let's just assume that we need to at least make 210 to be net on this actual pallet, okay? So we have how many quantity of this right here? Package quantity is 1. So it's telling us right here over here, so we have 3 of these, 1 of pretty much all of these. So let's run through and see if these are actually profitable and if you can actually sell it. Now, another thing I will say about actually doing this on Amazon is if you're not getting more of 10 plus units, so if this actually isn't coming with 10 or more and you are gated for it, you will not get ungated using the invoice for this, okay? Now, if, on the other hand, this comes with a quantity of more than 10 of that unit or brand, then you can utilize an 888 lots invoice to get ungated, okay? But that invoice must be itematized and it must show the actual brand and product in the quantity and in that, obviously variation in description and condition. Now, what you'd want to do, right, is what you want to do is, if it's a sales rank of 0, that actually becomes a bad product on Amazon because that means and indicates that it's not selling anymore. It may have been selling in the past as this listing looks good, right? but it's clearly not selling well now. So if we run the Jungle Scout Chrome extension on those zeros, then obviously it's going to show us no daily sales, no monthly sales. So those two products in the beginning actually become bad, and so does the Belkin. And usually when I hit the filter, I create two rules. So I'll go maybe sales rank lower than like a couple 100,000 depending on the category, or maybe or like 100,000 or something. And I'll also go greater than 1, right? So that you're at least getting a sales rank in there, because if you get these zeros, it can be misleading and you might think that it's a good product. So let's go to one that we can actually sell that has a sales rank of 75,000 right here. It's not an IP thing, and it's 788 profit. So let's slowly go down and start building this out, okay? So I'm gonna click on this one and see just the same, right? It looks like it's pretty solid listing. And then as I scroll down, what I'm gonna wanna do is I'm gonna wanna grab the ASIN and see if I can actually sell this, okay? So same thing, right? You're gonna find the ASIN, see if you can actually sell it. Now, I'm not gonna waste your time and literally click on these and tell you to do the same thing over and over again. You get the picture. It's literally rinse, repeat, recycle. And then as you go down, you wanna add these together, right? So you're gonna say, okay, this is profitable, this is profitable, this is profitable, this is, but maybe I can't sell it, right? And as you add these numbers up, it's going to slowly start adding up, like maybe like 898, right? And then like the next one was like 19 something, and then the next one was like 5 something, and then the next one was like, I don't know, like maybe like 20, right? And it's going to slowly start adding up until finally you get all the way down where there's no ROI products right here, right? And then once you're there and you see that, okay, this is what it is, you might either be, once you total these up, you might be at like 300. And then that's a profitable pallet, obviously, because 300 nets you $90 when you're spending 210, right? Maybe you might be under, you might be at like 150, and then clearly that's an unprofitable pallet that you don't want to buy and resell on Amazon. Now, typically what will happen with a good pallet, right? If this were good, and it looks like it actually is somewhat promising with all these greens right here, although some of them are low, so you'd have to add up the numbers and check on every single one to see if you could obviously sell it, right? Is what would typically happen is maybe this would come out to like 300 or like 305, right? And you'd have maybe, I don't know, 15 items left on this pallet that you can't actually resell on Amazon, right? So things that aren't profitable on Amazon, and things that obviously, if you scroll all the way up, don't have a sales rank, right? So these are things that you can obviously keep and resell on other platforms like eBay, Poshmark, Mercari for 100% profit margin when you flip them, right? You just want to make sure in this pallet that there are enough products that you can resell on Amazon for a profit that obviously counteracts the cost of the actual pallet that you're going to buy, and then you can keep the rest of the items and resell them on other places for a profit, but don't actually add that and factor that in to your profitability when you're deciding, okay? So let's assume that you went through and you actually calculated that this pallet was going to be 305 profit, so obviously if you spend 210 to get it, then you're still profitable. What you'd want to do is you want to come back to that actual pallet and then maybe make an offer for like 190 or 199, right? So let me just test it. Obviously, I'm not going to potentially buy this product or this pallet myself. Let me make a potential offer of 190 and see if that's actually going to be accepted or not. And boom, it's still too low. So let's go 199. Still too low. Let's go 205. Still too low, okay? So let's try 215. Boom, 215 was accepted, okay? So I can obviously pay 215 to get this if they accept it, which I've never, honestly, I've made, I don't know, dozens of offers. I've never gotten one denied after it's gone green like this. So then I can assume that I'm paying 215 for this actual pallet, right? So if I'm profitable at 305, right, I'm spending 215 to get it. 305 minus 215 means that I'm gonna net roughly $90 on this pallet profit, okay? Because obviously Scan Unlimited has already factored in all the potential FBA fees and stuff like that. So you can also assume that if you haven't done merchant fulfill it, and I like to always just do it with FBA, especially when you're merchant fulfilling, because it's going to be a little bit more conservative and take a higher price point. So if it's telling me that I'm only going to make $90 on this profit or on this pallet fulfilling it with FBA, then that might change to like 150 or like maybe like 170 or something like that if I'm doing it merchant fulfilled, because obviously Amazon is going to take less of a potential margin on that or a potential fee, but I actually have to do the inventory and the fulfillment myself.